Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, welcome to my channel. I am Kinsey, and over the summer I was on a road trip across Colorado to find the unique and hidden places that Colorado has to offer. And while I'm still on the hunt for those places, snow-covered back roads just are not my thing. No matter how long I've lived in Colorado, not really what I enjoy doing. However, we do have snowboarding videos coming out very, very soon, as early as October, if Keystone holds to their word, and opens up mid-October. So keep your eyes out for those videos. But in the meantime, we're also doing a podcast series of the dark, strange, and mysterious of Colorado. And today's video is no different than our last couple that we've done, podcast season-wise. And I hope that you guys enjoy today's video. Without further ado, let's get into today's story. If you are a longtime viewer, then you probably remember the last video that I posted. We went to Colorado's most well-preserved ghost town. This town is high in the Rocky Mountains, tucked away from the beaten path, and has been frozen by time and many Colorado winters. And in the wintertime, snow blankets the crumbling wood, and the wind whistles through the hollowed door frames, and the silence is often louder than any voice. And St. Elmo, in every sense of the word, is a ghost town, minus the couple residents that continue to live up there only in the summertime. But in the wintertime, Colorado's St. Elmo is most definitely a ghost town. However, according to legends, among the vacant buildings and frost-bitten paths, one spirit is known to roam the streets, a woman known as Dirty Ann. And you may have recalled me talking about her a little bit in my previous video when we went to St. Elmo. Now, I'll say that's a very unfortunate name to get as a ghost. I can understand why she may haunt St. Elmo, because I'd be mad too if I got the name Dirty Ann as a ghost too. I digress. Also, my chair's broken. Now, a little back story of St. Elmo for those of you who did not watch the previous video, which you should go watch the St. Elmo video because it's awesome. Anyways, St. Elmo was founded in 1880, and before it was known as St. Elmo, it was actually known as Forest City, Colorado. And the name was actually later changed to St. Elmo due to the multitude of towns across the nation that shared the same name as Forest City, and the town wanted to be different, I guess. No, actually, one of the founders, Griffith Evans, was reading a book named St. Elmo, which is ironically banned in the 1800s in the United States because of its description of French women. So it's kind of funny that, like, the town of St. Elmo would still be named that. But anyways, St. Elmo was a gold and silver town, and it had a population of nearly 2,000. And unlike Central City, which is another gold and silver town that we visited in the past and covered, the Lady in the Black legend from Central City, St. Elmo's boom didn't last as long as Central City's did. And by 1922, the last train rode out from St. Elmo, Colorado, and a majority of the town left with it, all except for one family, and that was the Stark family. As I stated in my previous video, a lot of the local population of St. Elmo were that of German immigration, and the Stark family was no exception to this. They were German immigrants who migrated from Germany to the Americas and ultimately settled in St. Elmo. And the Stark family actually ran the general store, the local hotel, and the mercantile. And the Stark family was actually kind of considered a elite family in the town. While they weren't considered founding fathers, they did get held to high standards in the town, because they did run so much of the town. So the Stark family maintained the town's identity even after the town's decline. And once the last train left in 1922, the town was nearly abandoned, minus the Stark family and a couple other residents who decided to stay. The Stark family maintained much of the history that is still seen today, that unfortunately or fortunately didn't burn in the 2002 wildfire that happened in the area. And the Stark family believed that St. Elmo would thrive again, and they bought up the properties that were left behind. And for many years, Roy and Tony Stark actually tried to influence developers to reopen the mine. I think it was the Mary Murphy mine is what they worked in up there. But unfortunately, the Stark brothers were unsuccessful and ultimately turned to tourism for vacationers to rent out the empty cabins up there, and they continued to run the general store. And really, if it wasn't for the Stark family, I don't think St. Elmo would be here today in the condition that it is in. Because it is considered Colorado's most well-preserved ghost town. And after Anton Stark's death, who was the father of the Stark family, Anna, his wife, realized that the tourism trade just wasn't providing for the family. And Anna sent her daughter, Annabelle, off to go and work in the telegraph office in Salida, which is about 20 miles south of St. Elmo. And Annabelle saw this as her escape from the prison that her mother had made for her in St. Elmo, as Anna just wasn't the nicest of mothers, and she kind of belittled her children a lot. So for Annabelle, this was her escape. And in 1922, she met a young man named Ward, and they decided to get married, and sending telegram to her family that they were moving to Trinidad. And they did just that. Annabelle and her husband Ward moved to Trinidad, Colorado, and for some unknown reason, the marriage didn't work out, and just 2 short years later, Annabelle came back to St. Elmo, where she would end up ultimately spending the rest of her life. And by the 1930s, the town, which had once been a population of nearly 2,000, had dwindled all the way down to only 7. And unfortunately, in 1934, Roy Stark, Annabelle's brother, had passed away in a mental institution. It didn't state why he was there, just that's where he had passed. And unfortunately, her mother Anna also died a short time later after that, and the only residents left were her, Annabelle, and her brother Tony Stark. And they lived in basically what was considered a dead town. And they lived in a building that had no indoor plumbing and no electricity at the time. Whether these buildings have electricity today, I'm not certain. I'm sure they do, but I've never been there at night, so I've never had to see the buildings lit up, because every time I've ever gone, they were already getting hit with natural light, so they didn't need electricity to run. So, if you've gone at nighttime, let me know. Comment below. And due to living in a town that had no indoor plumbing, Annabelle and her brother were not known to bathe regularly, which I'm sure smelled great in Victorian era time. And they also began to neglect the local hotel and letting the place fill with trash and discarded items that would pile up over time. And they did continue to run the general store. However, anybody who ever frequented the store said that it had a sour smell to it, which, no blame to them, just unfortunate. And that it contained tins of food that were outdated and stale tobacco. Though many of the locals who would frequent the general store said that Annabelle was always kind and generous to the few who still frequented the store, though it was also the locals who unfortunately gave her the nickname Dirty Ann because of her filthy clothing and tangled hair. And Annabelle was also known to roam the streets with a shotgun in hand to protect her property. And I guess back then, you kind of had to do what you had to do to protect your property, but very unfortunate kind of outcome for this family that was once an elite family to kind of become rags. It's kind of like that rags to riches, but backwards in this. And unfortunately, in the 1940s, Tony Stark would pass away, leaving Annabelle to be the only surviving resident of St. Elmo. And she lived there without electricity, without heat or running water, and she simply survived by clinging to a past that no longer existed. And Annabelle stayed in the town until the 1950s, when the state came in and ultimately removed her from the town and placed her into a nursing home, where not much longer after being placed in the nursing home, Annabelle ultimately passed away. However, that's not where Annabelle's story ends, or so some claim. Now, I love St. Elmo, and I can honestly say that in the amount of visits, because I try to go up at least once or twice a year to St. Elmo, but I can say that in my umpteenth amount of visits that I've never personally had any eerie interaction. However, that doesn't mean that others haven't, and that's exactly where we're going with this, is that according to legend, Dirty Ann still haunts St. Elmo to this day. And according to many reports, you can see Dirty Ann in the old hotel window, standing there just blankly staring, and other visitors in the wintertime have reported there being fresh snow prints in the surrounding area without there being anybody around to explain the fresh feet print in the snow. And others have reported feeling a gusty breeze or more of a ghostly cold breeze in the old hotel as well. And that they claim that Dirty Ann is still watching over the town, and that she even still haunts the Stark Hotel, or the Stark House. And like I said, personally, I've never had any weird experience, but that doesn't mean that these stories aren't true. I will say, in my previous adventure, before the one that got uploaded to YouTube, was I had gone there by myself, and I had filmed the whole town, and it had been a great film day. Everything was perfect, and when I got home, literally every single one of my videos from St. Elmo were corrupt. I couldn't use any of them. And that could have just been like an electronical thing, like user error. But I don't know, who knows? Maybe it was something more paranormal. Now, other visitors of St. Elmo, or even those who live up there part-time, have claimed that you can hear whispering, or that you can see miners walking from the old mines into town and then just strangely disappearing, and that the ghostly figures often resemble Dirty Ann, and that many will see an old woman sitting on the Stark front porch, just glaring at them until they leave, and only to be told that nobody lives in that house. And again, I kind of feel like some of this could maybe be debunked behind, the cold gust being, you're in the Rocky Mountains. In July, you could get a cold gust of wind in the Rocky Mountains. Voices, sometimes the wind, I guess, blowing through trees could sound like a voice. I don't know. You guys tell me. What do you guys think? Do you think that Dirty Ann could be haunting St. Elmo? Do you have any of your own experiences if you've gone to St. Elmo with Dirty Ann? I'd like to know. I don't know. Other than that, I guess we will move on to the theories. So, some of the theories leading behind why Dirty Ann is stuck to St. Elmo is because her first marriage obviously failed, and she came back to St. Elmo because she ultimately had a secret lover in St. Elmo who died in the Mary Murphy mine, and they claim that Anne is stuck there trying to find the love of her life, and that she won't rest until she does so. And the next theory claims that Anne was just crazy, and that she is stuck to the town because she thinks that she still runs the town. Theory number 3 says that she's not much of a vengeful ghost, but more stuck in heartbreak of a town that she grew up in and watched basically fall apart. So I guess those are the 3 running theories of Dirty Ann. St. Elmo has a lot of history to it, so I guess I could always do another podcast episode on St. Elmo and some of the interesting finds of St. Elmo. But other than that, thank you for joining me on today's dark, mysterious, and strange of Colorado. And if you enjoyed this series or this video, make sure to leave a like down below. Don't forget to comment, and if you aren't subscribed, don't forget to do so, as it's free for you and it helps me out a lot. We've officially hit over 60 subscribers, which I know most people are like, that's kind of lame that you celebrate that, but as a small content creator, small moves like that, or small, hills like that are always nice to hit, especially on YouTube. So if you've ever had any weird experiences in St. Elmo, if you've ever visited St. Elmo, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear about your trip to St. Elmo. And my chair's still broken. And other than that, don't forget to stay hydrated, and I will see you guys in the next video.